Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jenn Washington. This is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. I would like to extend my gratitude in you listening to this podcast. It means everything to me, and I hope it is clear that this subject matter is so important to me. I care about our people, our future, and making a positive change in this nation.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. On this episode, I would like to talk about Diddy and his new political party that he has introduced called Our Black Party. And so last week, you may recall, we talked about Ice Cube and his contract with Black America plan. Well, I wanted to talk about Diddy this week, who has a agenda for a entirely separate political party called Our Black Party. So we will talk about that for a bit. Also, I want to talk about what's going on in Nigeria, the SARS protests. Now, SARS stands for the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, and this is a branch of the Nigeria police force who is notoriously brutal and corrupt. And in response, tens of thousands of Nigerians across the country have been protesting for weeks against police brutality. And finally, we will talk about the Breonna Taylor case. Last week, you may recall, we talked about how Kenneth Walker was on the CBS Gayle King interview and discussed the night of March 13th when Breonna Taylor lost her life. Well, this week, we had Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly, who was one of the officers responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor, have his first public interview since the incident. His remarks were shocking and not surprising, actually. So we'll talk about that. And finally, and this is related to the Breonna Taylor case, activist Tamika Mallory and the Until Freedom organization held a Get Out the Vote rally in New York. In this event, she brought together Breonna Taylor's family along with the family of Eleanor Bumpurs. Eleanor Bumpurs lost her life at the hands of police officers in 1984, and Tamika Mallory recognized the significance and coincidence that this type of police brutality has continued in our community for years. And so I just want to share that relation in that story because a lot of us don't know about that story. Music and entertainment mogul Diddy launched his own political party this month. It is called the Our Black Party. He created the Black Political Party with a mission that includes advancing a political agenda that addresses the needs of Black people. So here are some of the initiatives in the Our Black Party plan: defunding the police, guaranteed income for all, decriminalize poverty, address racism in healthcare, grow Black businesses, statewide equity officers, legalize marijuana, high quality and affordable education, and build intergenerational wealth. As I look through here, I do see some similarities to Ice Cube's contract with Black America plan. How dope would it have been had they came together and merged those efforts? On the website, which is ourblackparty.org, individuals can sign up for information and make a donation. It is refreshing to see our favorite celebrities take more of an interest in just selling us a product, but actually taking an interest in improving our lives and our livelihoods. So I'm here for it, and I'll be watching and sharing updates as we hear more information about this effort. Tens of thousands of Nigerians have been demonstrating for weeks against the notorious, brutal, and corrupt police agency, the Special Anti Robbery Squad. Now, this agency, also known as SARS, was created in 1984 in response to an epidemic of violent crime, including robberies, carjackings, and kidnapping, while it was credited to having reduced crime in its initial years. The police unit was later accused of evolving into the same problem it had been designed to stop, a criminal enterprise with acts of impunity. Amnesty International issued a report in June that it had documented at least 82 cases of torture, ill treatment, and extrajudicial executions by SARS officers between January 2017 and May 2020. The victims were predominantly men aged 18 to 25 from low income backgrounds and vulnerable groups. The Nigerian government's failure to address the problem showed an absolute disregard for international human rights laws and standards. As protesters take to the streets, their voices are being amplified by viral hashtags, including hashtag #InSARS, which has gained traction by the help of celebrities such as Beyonce, Rihanna, John Boyega, and Jack Dorsey, among many others. And if people are looking for ways to get involved and do something, there is something that you can do. You can go on to Amnesty International's website. There are some petitions going around. You can make a donation at the website nsars.carrd.co, and you can find the petitions with the hashtag #InSARS. So last week we talked about Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. He was on CBS and had an interview with Gayle King, and he sat down and talked about the day that Breonna Taylor lost her life on March 13th and what occurred from his point of view. This week, Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly, who was one of the officers responsible for ending the life of Breonna Taylor on March 13th, had an interview with ABC News and sat down with Michael Strahan. Now, in this interview, he shows sympathy for the mother of Breonna Taylor, and while he doesn't offer an apology, he regrets or extends regrets of it happening and just indicates that no mother should have to bury a child, but it's not an apology at all. It's, intentionally not an apology. He goes on to say that he felt Kenneth Walker was responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor. And the interviewer, Michael Strahan, got clarification. So you feel that he was responsible? And he said yes, he totally blames him. He received a wound as a result of the shot that Kenneth Walker fired. So he uses that opportunity to claim himself and his family being a victim. What about Breonna Taylor, who was murdered in a hail of gunfire, 6 bullets in her body? What about her? Is she not the victim? And he had the nerve to say that this was not a race thing. This was not like George Floyd. But then goes on to say that George Floyd was not a model citizen, in his opinion, and that perhaps he died of an overdose. And so It's a really hard interview to watch. I'm not even going to give it energy to play the clip, but it's out there on YouTube and on the ABC News website. The other part of the Breonna Taylor case that I want to talk about was last week. The activist Tamika Mallory and the Until Freedom organization had a Get Out the Vote rally in New York. In the rally, she brought Breonna Taylor's family together with the family of Eleanor Bumpurs. Eleanor Bumpurs lost her life at the hands of police officers October 29th, 1984. She lived in the Bronx and had got behind on rent. It is reported that her rent was $89.44. She had failed to pay her rent for 5 months and now owed $387.40. So on October 29th, 1984, at 9 a.m., the housing police came to serve her with an eviction. They burst through the door, 6 police officers, and it was said that she reached for a knife, and so they shot her to death with a shotgun right there in her own apartment, burst through the door and killed her. These types of occurrences have been happening in our community for years and decades, and it just keeps happening. And we need change. We need police reform. We need some serious change. Speaking of change, we have an election right around the corner here. I encourage everyone to use their voice and vote. We got to make a change, y'all. So let's stay woke and stay informed and get out there and vote. I have already got my mail in ballot taken care of, and I will be volunteering on election day. So I challenge you all to do something and vote on November the 3rd, and stay tuned.
So at this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude this episode. I would again like to thank you for listening to Woke by Accident, and we would also like to invite you to follow us on our social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast, and on Twitter, it is Woke by. Again, we are available on all the platforms for podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, share, like, tell a friend. We do appreciate the feedback and the support. And every time you listen, we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again and take care.